Most students spent decades at the Oakfield Institute, so the young boys assigned to the same dormitory usually stayed very close friends. After just chatting for a while, the four boys became much closer. "Let's all get to know the Institute well today. I'm treating you guys to dinner tonight. Let's have a good time," Grant said, thumping his chest. "This guy has a lot of money, so why not let him treat us?" Nathan joked. Peter and Linley, sharing the same youthful spirit, grinned mischievously. At this moment, Nimbles suddenly poked his head out from inside Linley's clothes. He had just woken up and was too restless to stay hidden. "Whoa, what is that thing?" Nathan jumped in shock. "Nimbles, you're awake." Linley smiled and stroked his head. Nimbles closed his eyes with satisfaction. Then his beady eyes glanced at Nathan, Grant, and Peter, sniffing with his tiny nose, and looked unimpressed. "That's a Nightshade Rodent, a type of dire creature I've read about in books," Grant suddenly exclaimed. Nathan and Peter were surprised, exclaiming, "Linley, you have a dire creature?" They were still children, so how could they make a dire creature obey them? "Little Nimbles here is still just an infant. I just gave him some food, and he took a liking to me. So he formed a contract with me," Linley said with a smile. "Oh my gosh, you're really amazing, Alice. I've always wanted a dire creature since I was a kid," Grant said as he stared at Nimbles with awe. "Although I have Spectral Pact scrolls, I don't have the strength to make a dire creature submit." "I don't have the strength to make a dire creature submit to me either," Grant said. "Don't have the strength? Not even enough to tame a baby?" Linley said with a laugh. Grant shook his head. "I haven't even reached the level of a Tier 1 mage. With my current strength, I could probably only tame some infants, maybe if they're Tier 1s themselves. But what use are such weak creatures to me? Cubs of 7th or 8th tier dire creatures are not only rare, but they're also much stronger than me, even in their infancy." Linley silently agreed. Nimbles, the little Nightshade Rodent, was nearly a 5th tier magical creature, making him much stronger than Linley. Even then, after nearly half a year with him, his size hasn't changed at all. This was something that puzzled both Linley and Dennis. "Linley, you call this Nightshade Rodent Nimbles? Can I hold him for a bit?" Nathan's eyes couldn't leave the little creature. Linley immediately persuaded Nimbles through their telepathic link. Nimbles could now convey simple thoughts to Linley, and as he showed his teeth to Nathan, he let out an angry squeal of protest. Nathan couldn't help but pout in frustration. "Nathan, here's a suggestion. Nimbles really likes roasted meat. In the future, get him some roast duck, roast chicken, and similar meats to eat regularly." "I believe Nimbles won't be too hostile towards you then," Linley said, with a laugh. Nathan's eyes immediately lit up when he heard this. "All right then." Nathan suddenly frowned and looked at Grant. "Grant, if I don't have enough money to spend in the future, you'll have to lend me some. When my grandfather comes, I'll pay you back." "No problem," Grant said generously. "We haven't had a proper look around Oakfield Institute yet, right? Let's take a walk and explore the place. What do you say?" Peter suggested with a smile. Among the four boys, Peter was the most friendly and reliable, Nathan the most childish, Grant the most charming, and Linley, in the eyes of the other three, was the most mysterious. Linley was considered exceptionally talented in mastering 2 primal elements, and he also had a magical creature companion. The historic Oakfield Institute, with its ancient buildings, featured descriptions of these venerable structures. A renowned individual had once studied here. Over the thousands of years, Oakfield Institute had nurtured numerous exceptional talents, including many elite figures. The four boys, ranging from 8 to 10 years old, gazed in awe at the biographies of famous figures, their hearts racing with excitement. Each of them dreamed of the day they could become legendary figures themselves. Only one voice often rang in Linley's ears: "They're mere novices, boasting about Violet Bear, those who can only defeat powerful creatures but can't match those in the elite ranks are just beginners." Dennis often dismissed many of Oakfield Institute's supposed greats as insignificant. The four boys from dorm 198, along with Nimbles, explored the Oakfield Institute thoroughly, familiarizing themselves with the academy grounds. That night, they indulged in a lavish meal at a luxurious smokehouse not far from the residential area, opting to enjoy refreshing juice instead of other beverages, along with prime cuts of smoked meat. The next day was the official start of the curriculum course. On this day, there were no classes. Instead, the children visited the institute to hear motivational speeches from the school's leaders. The 100 children, aged mostly between 15 and 22, gathered in a spacious amphitheater, unsure of who the speakers were, and many began to doze off. After the opening ceremony concluded, they all left in high spirits. After dinner, the 4 boys sat in the courtyard, discussing their courses. It's really relaxing. Only 1 class a day. Oh, Linley has 2 classes since he's in 2 elemental practices, Grant sighed. But this place is really relaxed. You can attend the classes if you want, or not if you don't want to. Peter smiled lightly. Grant, don't be careless. The Institute may not have many requirements, but they do test your strength once a year. You can only advance to a higher grade if your strength improves by 1 tier. If you don't study hard, do you plan to stay here indefinitely? Moreover, the Institute has a rule that those who don't reach the tier of a Hexad Arcanist within 20 years will be expelled from the school. Linley nodded in agreement as he reviewed the school rules in his hand. The Institute's management was notably lenient, allowing students to become complacent over the years. However, if a student failed to achieve the rank of a Hexad Arcanist, a skilled practitioner of magic, they would face expulsion. Expelled from the Institute? Grant's eyes widened in shock. If I really get expelled, my dad will probably be furious with me. The thought of being expelled from Oakfield Institute was daunting. It would be a huge blow to his reputation. Nobody wanted to face that kind of disgrace. After all, being admitted showed one's aptitude, while being expulsed, quite the opposite. Classes start tomorrow. I wonder how good the teachers are here. If they can't even match up to my grandfather, then it's not worth coming here, Nathan mumbled. Nathan, is your grandfather a mage? Linley asked with curiosity. Of course. On my way here from home, my grandfather had already started teaching me some basic stuff, Nathan said proudly. As Linley chatted and joked with his 3 brothers, he harbored quiet hopes. The courses on Earth Elementals weren't the main focus. When it came to teaching Earth magic, how could the instructors at the Institute compare to Dennis after all? The real priority for him was to master wind elemental magic. As the night grew darker, the 4 boys' laughter echoed in the courtyard at the Oakfield Institute, none of them knowing what to expect the next day.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.